what are some of the items that we want to be covering today. So first off, we did the introduction, so hopefully you know who we are and we know a little bit more about the different backgrounds and levels here. Here we usually start those office hours with an introduction to what is RudderStack. So just for those who are just now discovering it, a quick overview of what it is. And then we're going to get into the topic of how can we create dashboards that replicate some of the features within GA4 using a combination of different tools, one of them obviously RudderStack. And we'll talk about how we can replicate the solution ourselves, what does it consist of, and then we'll talk about some other alternatives as well towards the end. Not sure we'll be getting to that. I will just share a blog and a document that our team has wrote that highlights all those alternatives. And then we'll go into a question and answer. If you have any questions, we would be happy to discuss them and dedicate the time towards the end just for that. Okay, perfect. So with that then, we'll start off with a quick overview of what is RudderStack. A lot of you seems like based on the polls, you're probably here because you've already heard about it. But really, RudderStack, if we were to kind of summarize what it is an open source customer data platform that is warehouse first. So the main functionality within RudderStack is that it unifies 3 different types of pipelines within one platform to fit all your fit different data needs within your data stack. So usually, most users would start with what we refer to as the event stream pipeline. And what that is essentially just setting up our websites, our mobile applications with a single SDK, an easy-to-use SDK that enables us to capture all of our user data, our behavioral data, and really send it to different destinations, such as our cloud data warehouse to have it as the center of our architecture, but also to different destinations where it can be used for remarketing, for marketing purposes, for automation purposes, for CRM purposes, and so on. So really, Event Stream is about sending your data to either your data warehouse so that it can be centralized, or to different downstream destinations. Then you've got the second pipeline, which is really just a traditional batch ETL pipeline, and it's referred to as ETL. If you've seen our documentation, we also refer to it as cloud extract or just extract, but really all of those mean one thing, which is ETL, and the source within this case is usually a third-party tool. It's a SaaS software from a growing list of SaaS vendors that we support. And really the goal here is to batch load that data from those tools into our cloud data warehouse. So really, one destination only here is supported, which is the cloud data warehouse. Now, with a combination of Event Stream, which operates more on a real-time basis, and ETL, which operates on a batch basis, we can get data for users of our platform from different sources and then centralize those within the data warehouse to get a full picture, a better picture, a more 360 view of our customers and users. Now, once that data is in here, we can then perform advanced analytics like machine learning for real-time personalization. Let's say we want to do lead scoring. We can unlock a lot of use cases on the data warehouse. And we can also do identity resolution so we are aware of the user journey. So we have a full analysis of the user journey as well. Now, once that is done, we don't want our data to be living just in the data warehouse. We actually want to take action on that so that we are activating it. And we use this term a lot when referring to reverse ETL. We want to activate that data within some of our downstream tools so that it can actually be utilized and we can take advantage of the analytics that we've done. So essentially, it's all about getting your data into a data warehouse, but also out of the data warehouse with reverse ETL. So this is an overview of RudderStack, but really what we want to focus mostly today is on this DIY, some of the GA4 functionality. Now, I think a lot of us who are here probably have used some instance of Google Analytics or Google Analytics 4, and are maybe curious as to why we want to DIY something like that. So it's really a great tool that's many marketers, many web analytics specialists use to get traffic from their websites and get like a lot of analytics out of the box. So as a self-serve analytics tool, it's really like one of the best tools to use out there. So really the main functionality that it provides is not just capturing the user and traffic and engagement data, but also using machine learning to get insights to it. However, there are certain reasons where it might not be accessible to everyone. That could be because of data compliance reasons. Again, this is more of a managed solution. You don't really control the data. I think in GA4, this has gotten better because now you can control at least the data center in which it lives in, but still there's no complete ownership of the data. And for industries that are very highly regulated, this can become problematic. And then there's the issue of data reliability, right? We're always dealing with data quality as front and center for data engineers and web analysts. So we want to make sure that the data is actually reliable and that other teams can really use it in different use cases and in their different teams as well. So we want to make sure that ad blocking is minimalized and also that it doesn't happen. And with Google Analytics, this can also become a little bit more challenging. There are now more solutions where you can use server-side deployments, but still it doesn't completely protect you from ad blockers. And then lastly, we want more flexibility and customization. While it is great as a tool for providing different reports out of the box, you might still want to get a level of customization that is not available to you. So that is kind of one reason why you might want to create your own dashboards. So really, again, want to preface this by saying this is not a solution to like completely replace GA4, but it's mostly to get an idea of how do we build out some of those own functionalities ourselves by using those tools that allow us to capture some of the event data and traffic data. So, okay, what does the solution consist of? And I promise this is not going to be a presentation. We're mostly going to be spending time within a demo to see how all those different tools interact with each other. But essentially, we're going to be using here like RudderStack as a mean for capturing the event data, sending it to our data warehouse destination, and also adding any needed transformations for us to get the data that we actually need. So again, we're using RudderStack, the event stream pipeline. If we remember the pipelines that we've seen at the beginning, event stream is the one that we will mostly be utilizing for this demo. We're also going to be using RudderStack transformations, and those are really great because they allow us to apply logic, add code, or transform the data using JavaScript as the data is in flight. So as it's being sent from the source to the destination, and I can apply it on different destinations as well. So different transformations for different destinations, and we'll see examples of that as well. And then we'll also be using a cloud data warehouse destination. So for this context, you can use either BigQuery or Snowflake. Redshift is also something you can use with this demo. So it's really up to you. What is the cloud data warehouse vendor that you want to work with? It should be available with any one of those. Now, again, we're using for the ingestion part, we're using RudderStack. Now, the next step, if we think about it, we're centralizing everything within the data warehouse. There are certain things that we can capture from the data once it's in the data warehouse, and that's extracting the sessions. Now, when I actually built this demo, we did not have support for sessionization, but RudderStack SDK now actually has support for sessionization out of the box. So you might choose to use the sessionization capabilities within the JavaScript SDK, or we do have some pre-built dbt models that you can run directly on your data within the data warehouse to extract that needed session information. Now, lastly, now that we've got this, the information, the user behavior information, the session information, we want to be able to visualize those, right? And in this scenario, we're going to be using Tableau as our data visualization tool. Again, there are other options there for data visualization. Obviously, some folks will prefer to use Looker, PostHog, Power BI as well, and then some other open source alternatives like Lightdash and Metabase. So it's really up to us really to kind of identify what is the right data visualization tool that we want to use. In this context, we are just going to be showing this demo within Tableau. All right, so let's actually go ahead and jump into the steps for building out the solution. So first off, we want to actually ingest the data from our website. Here I have a simple, just like a dummy website that I use for demoing purposes. And really the purpose of this is to show how we can capture different page views, different track calls, identify calls through the SDK. So really here, I can just send out all the traffic data directly through the SDK. And really the first thing I have to do is to create the JavaScript SDK, add it to my site, and just make sure that the events are being sent, right? So the live events viewer here really enables us to capture and troubleshoot any issues that are occurring within our event stream data capture. So here, if I send out any events, like as an example, page views, some button clicks, I want all of those to be sent and captured through RudderStack as a source, and then sent to my data warehouse destination. So again, with event stream, we are setting up so we are getting information from each one of those activities. We're getting things like the referral information, which would be really helpful in building out our dashboard. We can get things such as any custom properties that we want to pass with those buttons that we're interacting with within our site. So the first thing is to set up the event stream, as I mentioned, and then we want to set up the destination, in this case to be sent to a BigQuery data warehouse. Again, this could be Snowflake, could be any other data warehouse of choice, but we want to set it up so that it's all the data that is being captured is sent to our data warehouse and persisted there. So one thing I think I didn't mention towards the in the beginning is RudderStack is open source and it does not persist any of your data. So there's no storage of your data happening whatsoever. It's really up to you to kind of store any data that is being captured within the data warehouse. So really, it's acting here as a messenger to send the data from the source to the destination only. Okay. So now that we have the data, we can also view live events within the destination and make sure our data is being received. We can also check out the syncs to make sure that the data is being synced in a healthy way to our data warehouse. This is also a great way to kind of troubleshoot if there are any issues occurring. Now, by default, RudderStack does not capture any location information, but if that's something I want to be able to build out within my dashboard, I would have to kind of use an external API to add that location information. So while it does support capturing the IP address of the request or of the event, we can take that IP address that is captured, use a transformation. And this transformation is going to be enriching it using an external API. Sorry. Okay, just want to pause here for any questions. Okay. Okay, I see there is a question. Really supporting internet paddle. Okay, I see your Branganath is answering it. We'll also address this, Felipe, at the end. When it's time for when it's time to answer those questions. But yes, feel free to keep adding your questions even if they're not related. Okay, cool. So just gonna continue on with the topic for now. Again, transformations in RudderStack can be used for a variety of purposes. I can use it either for event enrichment, similar to the use case that I have right now. I don't by default capture geolocation information. What I can do is I can enrich it using an external API. I can use it for filtering purposes. That's also a very common use case for transformations. I can use it for modeling, for shaping the data to be in a way that is accepted by the destinations, especially if I'm using a webhook source for that, which doesn't go through the transformer. And so I can use those transformations really for a variety of use cases. But for today, we're mainly using it for enriching the data that we have with an external API. So I'll show an example of how that works. So here in the live events, I'm going to go ahead and fire off a page view. So what I can see here is this transformation is currently applied on the destination level. Let me actually make this bigger and let me know if it's not clear enough. Okay, so I'll notice that before the event, we were sending an IP address with the request, but we don't have any location information. What this transformation will do is it will take this value, which is let me actually go back, the IP address. It will pass it through the API for getting the geolocation, and then output a result. Let me just fire it off. Okay. So like an example of the enrichment that was provided here is a new, we can see here a new event attribute within the payload, which is called geolocation, and it will have some information around the city, the country code, and the lat and long, and just just an added object that refers to the geolocation. Now, again, I can use this. This is an optional step. You don't really have to implement it, but I can use it if I want to get some location information within a map later within my dashboard. So again, for transformation, for getting the geolocation, this is what we'll be using, which is transformations to enrich our data. Next, we want to get our session information. So by default, as mentioned before, the sources here, if we do look at the ingested events, there is some session information that is being captured, and I can actually see that through a session ID. So by default, RudderStack defines a session as being a period of 30 minutes. If 30 minutes of inactivity have occurred, then it will kind of end that session and start a new one, and it will assign a session ID to it. If I'm starting with a brand new session, it should also add an added attribute called session start, and that will have a Boolean value of true. So I can use the session information later in my data warehouse to kind of build out the user journey and understand the different sessions that have occurred. In this demo, again, this is a new feature. Within this demo, I've actually also used some of our dbt models, which we can run directly on our data within our data warehouse. We have one which is called Rudder Sessionization, so we can use that as well to get a full full overview of the customer journey of the users in the way in which they were implemented. Now we've sent all this data to our data warehouse, and this is how it will appear within our data warehouse. So within RudderStack, there's a specific schema that it will use to kind of build out the different tables. So I'll see a separate table for page views, a separate one for the different track events that were built out. Sorry, I realized this is small. Let me make it slightly bigger. So different tables that have been added based on the warehouse schema. And this is not something that you have to model yourself. It actually happens by default within RudderStack. So it makes it a lot easier for us to just get into the tables that we actually need and build out our dashboards from it. Now, also for if I will be using the DBT option, I can just go ahead and load my models. And once those models are loaded, they will be added into my data warehouse, in which I can also use them right away for capturing the session information. Okay, so I see here my DBT models have all been added, and I can use this model that I built out to calculate the average session duration by each user and build that out into my dashboard. All right, awesome. So now I have all of that information. I've captured the event data. I've transformed it so I get the geo data that I need. I've used sessionization to get the session information that I require. And now, really, I can start off with my dashboard and build that out. Right. So I can go ahead and going to hop over here to Tableau, and I'm going to be defining the data sources that I will need. So I can set up a connection directly to my BigQuery dashboard, my BigQuery data warehouse, and from there be able to view all the tables. So I can see here that they are all listed within this menu on the left. Okay, so I'm going to pause here first for any questions. Questions so far on what we've done? All right. So, okay. So if no questions, then we will going back to the Tableau part, and let me actually make this bigger as well. Okay, so here we want to again, this is building out starting off with a simple dashboard. So there's going to be a part 2 of this where we add some more information. We make them a little bit more complex and advanced. But here, in the context of this 1 hour session that we have, we're only going to be talking about some simple features that we'll be adding to our dashboards. But definitely stay tuned for a part 2. So for now, we want to capture simple things like the page views. We want to capture some of the geolocation information, some of that referral information, and be able to create a dashboard that visualizes all of those. And so what I'm going to be doing now is taking a look at all the different data here. I'm going to be grabbing the pages table, and then creating a relationship from there with the tracks table and the users table. So the users table will be based on the identified users who have ran an identified call on the site, and were able to be identified using a certain identifier, like an email as an example. So all of those, the users table will have the unique identifiers which were identified on my site. So I want to also analyze the different activities. So I'll connect that also with the tracks table, which includes all the different buttons, all the forms that they've submitted within the site. And then I'll also connect that with the models that I created using DBT earlier, which includes the average session information and all the different sessions, the number of sessions and the durations of sessions that were captured. So again, I'm creating relationships between those within Tableau, and I'm using here a live connection. Now, you can use either a live connection or an extract, but with the context of the data that I have, which is not too big, I can get away with using a live connection. It would not affect the performance too much. And in the live connections, we're essentially running the queries like directly on the data. And if there are any updates, any refreshes that have occurred, then it will do that automatically. In the case of extract, obviously it's better performance, but you do have to kind of cache a copy of that data in memory in advance for it to work. So for the context of today, we're just going to be using a live connection. Now, if I wanted to look into the geodata, really all I need here is the captured information from my enriched API. So from the API enrichment that I've added through my transformation. So I have the lat and long values here added, and once those are added, they will directly be reflected as a visualization map within Tableau. Now here I want to be able to also look into this map and see the number of users for each region. So I can see here that in Canada I had 3 users that were registered, that were access to my site. I have a few more from different locations in which I can actually zoom out as well. So I have here from other countries as well, and then like different parts of North America, India, and Europe. But really here, it's going to be capturing all of that by just adding the latitude and longitude. I'll talk about the filter later, but I want this to be filtered out across all the different visualizations. So I added a filter to reflect the date in which this user has accessed my site or browsed my site. So then I want to take a look at the total page views, and obviously this will also be filtered. So it's not really useful for us to find just the total page views without a context of time. So there's a filter that was added here to kind of filter that out by a specific date or by specific hour in which that page view has occurred. And then also we want to get an idea of how many of those users have actually been identified, meaning they've actually either used a contact us form or maybe they've done an activity that prompts an identify event. So they were actually identified with an email identifier. Then this is optional, but I wanted to add this to this dashboard, but getting the identifiers, the emails that were used. Again, for privacy purposes, you might not want to do that, but then this is kind of like optional if you want to add it to your dashboard or not. And then this is where we're getting this information related to the average session duration. So for in a lot of scenarios, it's important for us to look at the average session, the sessionization that has occurred. So we might take a look at the average session. Maybe we want to look at that by a specific user, or if not, we can just remove those email values and we will get just sessions without necessarily having email values associated to them. And then also the session, average session per user, and I can control if I want that to be by minutes or by second. Currently, it's referring to the number of sessions, but it's counting those based on the number of minutes they spent on a site. And then lastly, the referral information, where were they referred from, what are the sources in which they used to visit my site, and so on. So lastly, I want to bring all of those together into a dashboard. So I can create this dashboard, bring those all together, and use those filters to basically look into the information that was sent within a specific time period. So I can filter this out to show information based on a specific week, days, and also have it so granular so as to show data and events by hours and minutes. So again, also here, I've added a visualization that refers to what are some of the top events that have occurred on the site. So really here, again, it's like a simple visualization, but it's more to get that preliminary data that you would look for within Web Analytics, which is how many page visitors that you're getting, geolocations, and also some session information related to your users. Any questions so far on this? Okay, great. I see.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, do you have some details of this DBT model that we can share after the call?
Yes.
Charts and okay.
Yes. Yeah,
Sure.
for sure. So this DBT model was built by our team. We have a package, a library of different DBT packages. We actually talked in a previous office hour about identity stitching, so we'll link that. After this office hour is done. If you want to take a look at the previous session, but essentially there's a number of different DBT models that you can build out and use right away. So you can use it for identity stitching and identity resolution purposes. And then the rudder sessionization, this is the one that we've actually used for the context of this dashboard. And really here, it's got all the details that's required for how do you access this model, how do you build it out so that it gets you all the different SQL models and runs them on your data warehouse. So really here, it's building out 6 different models, but the ones that you actually need to import into your dashboard for getting the session information are the session tracks and the average session duration. Any question on those?
Yeah. And the charts that you used, can you talk about a little about them as well?
You mean the charts
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do
so
you have?
those are basically based on the visualizations that I've created in like individually in each one of those in my Tableau for my Tableau dashboard. So we've added different ones for page views. We've seen how we captured those using page views. And really the way I've used to capture those is by counting the unique identifier for the different pages. Similar for identify users, counting the number of emails, the identifiers that were used uh, for for when a user runs an identify activity. So we use an email here as kind of the main identifier for it. So really just counting the number of identifiers that were captured, and then all the users. And you'll notice here they're all using this received at filter so that I can filter them out towards the end by a specific time period, since really all this data is not really that useful if it's not within a context of a particular time frame. So it's important to really know what you want to filter by, and then edit this filter so that it's applied to the context or the worksheets that you want it to be running, that you want it to be kind of consistent with. That's what we'll be seeing later within that's what we'd see here in the dashboard, which will include this filter. I can edit this filter to show data from different time frames as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so opening it up for any questions, and just to wrap up on this, to sum up for like this whole solution and this whole demo that we've seen, this was again built using a variety of different tools, and really the purpose of it is to show the level of customization that we can build out by having ownership of our data. So by capturing all of that data, by persisting it in our data warehouse, we can unlock different use cases, as I've mentioned before, and one of them is being able to reflect those within a visualization, within a dashboard that I can have different stakeholders, different users use for different purposes. Again, this is something that you can continuously build on if you have the data by adding new features, adding new functionalities as the need for that data grows as well. So while some questions are being typed, just want to refer to some additional information. Here, I'm going to be sharing the slides with you after. Like if you are within the community Slack, make sure you check out our community office hour session, our community office hour channel. And if you're not, just make sure you do join our Slack community. I'll link the join to the Slack in towards the end as well. And we will be posting there all the different office hour sessions that we will be doing, as well as the topics. And if you have a particular topic in mind that you feel like it would be useful to have an office hour about, then make sure to provide us your feedback. Here's also some additional resources around what we've used to build out to build out those dashboards, which are some of the customer session analysis, customer session analysis DBT models. We do actually have a blog that's written about those, and you can essentially refer to this to if you want to build out something similar. I'll paste that in the chat for you to take a look at. And also the different DBT packages that are available, also adding this within the chat. And then lastly, this is kind of what we've seen is kind of one option to for those who don't have full accessibility to GA to implement. But if you're looking for other alternatives, then there are a lot of other out-of-the-box open source alternatives, especially for those who might not be able to use GA4 for compliance purposes and GDPR. We do have a blog post actually about some of the other alternatives that can be used in lieu of it. So make sure to check those out as well. Those are within the slides that I'll be sharing towards the end as well. And then lastly, I've linked some playlists that you can use if you are new to RudderStack, if you are like evaluating and want to learn more about how to set things up, then those playlists might be helpful for you as well. Okay, so just checking for any questions. I'm just going to be hanging around here for any questions. If anyone has anything, not necessarily about what we covered today, about any other related topic. And also just to call out to our next office hour, which is going to be drilling more into RudderStack transformations. This will be on November 9th. So if you're interested in that, definitely register for it as well. Okay. Okay, so let's go over some of the questions. I know those were answered already, but just kind of to have an open discussion about those. If RudderStack doesn't currently support an integration like Paddle, what options do I have in order to make it work? I think Ranganath already answered that. Thank you so much, Ranganath. But you can basically let us know. That's really what we're here for, what the integration is. And what we usually do is we put it within our feedback tool. Actually, you can do that as well. Let me see if it's available here. If you do look at our docs and support here, we have the ability to add your own feature requests. So we actually use a tool for that to kind of capture all the user feedback. So if there are any specific features that you think would be very helpful to have, just make sure to add those within those feature requests, and we will surface them also to our product teams. Can we access some of the technical details, such as the used DBT models or chart configurations? Dominicus, yes, we can. So what I'll do is I'll actually try to package those up in a way in which can be shareable, and I will share it within our community Slack. I have also created a walkthrough video of how you can implement those step by step. So I'll actually share that as well towards after this session, if that helps. Can we dig more into the data of one of the charts? Yes, we can. Let's take a look at one of them. One of the charts, let's say average session duration. Really here, we're using the average session, the visitor ID. We're using certain filters to filter out the session information as well. And then basically displaying the different session duration for each one of the users. So summing up the different average sessions that were captured by them. And then if I want to filter those out by a particular filter, then I can do that as well. For top events, really just referring to the counting the different events that are available to us, and then referring those into kind of a pie chart that we can use to look at the number of events for each one and the count of events that was captured. Also can be filterable by a specific time frame using the received at filter. So if there's any one of those, Dominicus, that you want me to drill into, just let us know as well, and we can dig into it. And we can also find a way to share those after. How are the events metrics being tracked in the website? I'd like to know more about how this was implemented. So can you maybe, Philippe, can you just provide more context to that? Is it more around like how we set up the JavaScript SDK? If that's the case, we can I can show a quick overview of that now as well. So just for more context, let me see if I have the code related to that. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I don't think I've shown how we've added the SDK into the site, but essentially when we create the RudderStack JavaScript SDK, we can set, in order to set it up, we're provided with this JavaScript code snippet. So what we can do is we can copy it over and then paste it into our HTML code for our site. It needs to be within the head node inserted. So once we do that, we'll actually be able to load and initialize the SDK and also make a page call just for testing purposes. But you can like eliminate that if you don't need page calls. Usually that's kind of one of the ways we start with testing the functionality and if we are able to get those events. So we will essentially be loading it using the right key and the data plane URL, but those are all like provided within that code snippet, so you don't have to fill those out yourself. And then using the dot page method, we can get the page calls. And then the different track methods and the identify calls, those would be attached to the button clicks. So you can run those and fire those off by each button click using the dot track event. And if I have a certain way of identifying users, like in the context of this site, I'm using this contact us form to kind of get users to fill in details. And then whatever email they provide here, I'm kind of using as an identifier for this user so that they've gone from an anonymous user to an identified one. And you'll see here that we can actually do so by adding code that uses the identify method, passes it the email as a user ID. This is what I'll be using as my identifier, and then any necessary properties that I want to pass to it as well. You can also, usually with contact us forms, we do identify, so we can identify a user and also track their activity using a track method. So you'll see this is attached to the button click as well, or the contact us form click as well. So hope this helps show how this was implemented. For more details, Philippe, you can look into the documentation that Ranganat provided, or the video playlist that I added towards the end. Yes, yes. If you do use the comment fields, there's a lot of default tracking available. All right, cool. Any sticking around more for any questions? Anything else? We have 8 more minutes. If nothing comes up, we can definitely end the session. But if not, then happy really to talk about anything. I will try to link everything within the slides, and if you're not already in the in our Slack channel, make sure to use that just so you don't miss out on those, and also our upcoming office hour sessions. All right. So I guess if there are no questions, then we're just going to wrap up this session. Again, thank you so much for joining us and for all the great questions. We'll see you in the next one and have a great rest of your week. Thanks, everyone.